Let's practice English tenses. There are 6 continuous tenses and there are non-continuous tenses. So there are total number of tenses, 12 tenses. But actually, these 12 tenses have been divided into 3 parts, present, past and future. But I am teaching you in a different way. I divide tenses in 2 parts. One continuous and the other is non-continuous. I am talking to you. This is present continuous. And I've been talking to you for 1 hour. It is present perfect continuous. Yesterday I was talking to my friend. It is past continuous. Yesterday I'd been talking to some of my friends for 1 hour. This is past perfect continuous tense. Tomorrow I'll be talking to my friends. This is future continuous tense. Tomorrow I'll be talking to my friends from 3 to 5 p.m. for 2 hours. This is future perfect continuous tense. Why should I divide into 2 parts? It's because the students get confused. They mix up between continuous tenses and non-continuous tenses. So what's most important is that you have to be able to separate continuous tenses from the other tenses. That's why in a very short period of time, I help students learn 6 continuous tenses first. And when they finish with 6 continuous tenses, I go about present perfect tense, past indefinite tense, and future perfect tense, because these tense, past perfect tense, these tenses are very similar. If you know one tense, you can understand the other two. It's very little difficult. So very few, dissimilarities. Right. So first of all, let's come back to continuous tenses. So I was talking, this is past continuous tense. I've been talking, this is past perfect continuous tense. I'll be talking, continuous, future continuous tense. And I'll be talking to someone for 2 hours. This is future perfect continuous tense. And I've been talking to you for 30 minutes. This is present perfect continuous tense. And I'm talking to you. This is present continuous tense. It's raining, present continuous tense. It has been raining, present perfect continuous tense. So in case of teaching tenses, I always tell the students to find out which tense falls under continuous tenses and which sentence falls under non-continuous tenses. In Bangla, if I tell I'm going home, this is in Bangla, আমি বাড়ি যাচ্ছি. So when you say যাচ্ছি, খাচ্ছি, করছি, ঘুরছি, doing, coming, living, eating, drinking, these are present continuous tense, right? And if I said it in the past, I was eating, আমি খাচ্ছিলাম, I was catching fish, আমি মাছ ধরছিলাম, আমি 2 ঘন্টা ধরে মাছ ধরছিলাম, I've been catching fish for 2 hours. আগামীকালকে আমি মাছ ধরতে থাকবো. Tomorrow I'll be catching fish. আগামীকাল 2 ঘন্টা ধরে আমি মাছ ধরতে থাকবো. I will have been eating, I will have been catching fish for 1 hour, for 2 hours. So if you have mentioned the duration, sometime maybe 1 hour, maybe 2 years, maybe 1 year, maybe 1 month, maybe 1 hour, maybe 1 minute, maybe for 5 seconds, no problem. You should use perfect continuous tense. Actually, present continuous tense and present perfect continuous tense, the same thing. The only difference is that when you mention the time duration, when you mean that it started earlier and it's going on for some 1 hour or 1 year or something like that this is present perfect continuous. So present continuous is very similar to present perfect continuous. Past continuous is very similar to past perfect continuous tense. Future continuous tense is very similar to future perfect continuous tense. The only thing is that perfect. Perfect means, impeccable. There is nothing wrong. Everything is absolutely fine. So if you say, I am catching fish is not that much perfect. If you say I've been catching fish for 5 hours, this will be perfect. That's why first one was not perfect tense, but the second one is past perfect tense. So why do I teach 6 continuous tense in the beginning? What I tell students to make them understand whether the sentence falls under continuous tense or the non-continuous tenses, right? And once you have understood, can separate present continuous tenses from the others, you can easily make sentences with these tenses, because in present continuous tense auxiliary verb is the only difference. I am catching fish. So in all 6 continuous tenses, I catching fish, right? I catching fish in all 6 continuous tenses. But when it is in present continuous tense, then I am catching fish. If it is in present perfect continuous tense, then I have been catching fish. If it is in past continuous tense, I was catching fish. If I tell it in past perfect continuous tense, I'll say I had been catching fish for 1 day, for 1 hour, for 2 hours, like that. Since morning, since afternoon, like that. And if it is future continuous, like আমি যেতে থাকবো, tomorrow I'll be talking to you, আগামীকাল আমি তোমার সাথে কথা বলতে থাকবো, আগামীকাল আমি মাছ ধরতে থাকবো. So I'll be catching fish, I'll be catching fish, I will be. And if I say 1 ঘন্টা ধরে আগামীকাল মাছ ধরতে থাকবো, I will have been catching fish. So in all 6 tenses you have the same structure: subject, then auxiliary verb, then ing added with auxiliary, principal verb, and then the other things. So what happens? I catching fish. It may be I am catching fish. It may be I have been catching fish. It may be I was catching fish. It may be I had been catching fish. It may be I'll be catching fish. It may be I will have been catching fish. So present continuous am is are, present perfect continuous has been or have been, past continuous tense was or were, past perfect continuous tense had been, future continuous tense will be, future perfect continuous tense will have been. So I, auxiliary verb, then ing added with verb, that's it. So number 1, when you translate, you have to find out the subject. First one is subject. Second one, with a gap, you will write continuous form: going, eating, running, catching, like this. And in between, according to the name of the tenses, you have to write: I am catching fish, I was catching fish, I will be catching fish, I have been catching fish, he had been catching fish, he will have been catching fish. So I am catching fish, he is catching fish, you are catching fish, we are catching fish, they are catching fish, right? I am catching fish, we are catching fish. So if it is first person singular number, I am catching fish. If it is third person singular number, he is catching fish. If it is plural number, then are. So I am catching fish, you are catching fish, he is catching fish, we are catching fish, you are catching fish, they are catching fish. Then we go to present perfect continuous tense. He has been catching fish, I have been catching fish, you have been catching fish, we have been catching fish, they have been catching fish. It's only when you use third person single number, he has been catching fish, they have been catching fish. Thanks for watching.